Hi everyone and welcome to Green Monk TV. My guest on the show today is Bryony Worthington from SandBag, and I wanted to talk to Bryony about the latest report from SandBag about the EU emissions trading scheme. Bryony, did I get it right? Is it you brought out a report on the EU emissions trading scheme, which says, if I understood it correctly, that the carbon emissions could be locked at too high a cap?
Yes, that's absolutely right. We've been tracking how emissions trading policy has been implemented in Europe for a number of years, and what we're concerned about is that it's not really doing the job it was designed for. It's supposed to incentivise emissions to go down, but because the caps have been set too high, it's actually meaning it's locking in pollution for the future.
So how are the caps set too high? How did that happen?
It's a political process, so it relies on the ministers of Europe and the civil servants of Europe reaching a kind of compromise about where they think the cap should be. And this is sort of based on the science, but in reality it's a political decision. And they make these decisions on the basis of some economic forecasts. So what do they think the emissions are going to be in the future? And then they say, well, if we think it's going to be here, we think we should try and make it lower than that projected future. And what's actually happened is that they got those projections completely wrong, and they were broadsided by quite a deep recession, which took emissions down by quite significant volumes, meaning that they got the caps wrong and that the caps are far too high compared to where we are actually today.
And I know people can trade emissions. So if I have an emissions cap of, say, 1 million tonnes and I produce 800,000, I can then sell those 200,000. That's a very simple way of looking at it. But can they carry over from year to year as well?
That's correct. So we've created these assets that allow you to pollute, and they are entirely bankable, meaning you can just keep moving them on into the future and use them whenever you want. So if you have found yourself with a big surplus, you can use them in the future to pollute then.
And if the caps are locked in much higher than they should be, it means, as you said earlier, that people have a license to pollute. There's no incentive to or no reason to drop. There's nothing stopping people from just pushing out as much carbon as they can.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there is, an opportunity cost if you, it doesn't create such a strong incentive that you go out of your way to pollute. That's definitely not true, but it just removes your incentive to do something about your emissions, and allows you to carry on for longer doing what you've been doing, for the last few decades. So it's just that driver of change has been totally weakened, basically.
So what should be done to fix this, and who are the people responsible for so doing?
So the most obvious thing is to adjust the caps and make them tighter so that you create more scarcity in the market. You take away permits. And just yesterday we had a paper issued by the European Commission that suggests that they might take away something like 1.4 billion tonnes worth of permits to try and tighten the market up, which would be very welcome. We don't think it's enough. We think it actually should be closer to 2.3 billion. This is across the period 2008 to 2012. And that's the kind of thing that needs to happen. We need to see far less permits being created to compensate for this sort of carryover that we've got.
What can we do to try and influence this decision?
Yeah, well, it's tricky, isn't it? What we're doing, because we're sort of an advocacy group, is getting involved in the discussions by producing analysis and reports like the one we produced yesterday, to try and put forward the sort of facts, really, and to try and dampen down some of the industrial lobbying that's going on. It's actually really what's holding us back is fears from industry that this is going to really damage their competitiveness. So we're trying to show actually this is all being exaggerated, and it's very, very doable, and it would be beneficial in the long run and for in across the economy as a whole. So that's what we're trying to do, and we're making some progress, and contacting MEPs and getting the political sort of climate correct in Europe is going to be an important part of that. As far as individuals, it's really a question of just joining or lending your voice to campaign groups that are active on this, and we're one of those, but there are others out there who are doing work to try and persuade Europe. So because we could talk about personal carbon action a bit, because actually this whole emissions trading scheme does affect you as an individual. If you're making reductions in your home to maybe reduce your electricity consumption, you're actually just releasing permits that can be then used by someone else. So it should concern people that this scheme is in place, and it would be great if people got more involved. And certainly, you can come to our website and have a look and see some of the actions we've got there. But even just, writing to your power company to say, I know that you've got permits, and I want some of them. Actually, that might be quite something you could do. But it's political pressure actually that we need. So yeah.
When are we likely to know the decision out of Europe?
Well, I asked a member of the Commission team this morning that question, and she was a bit vague. It seems as if it's going to now move to autumn. There is a summit of EU environment ministries and leaders expected in the autumn. That's the earliest I think we'll see a decision being made, and it's kind of hoping then to be finalised in Cancun, which is the next big UN meeting in Mexico. So that's in December. So sometime between the autumn and December, we'd hope this would be made, because we can't, every day that goes by more emissions occur, and we've got to get started really. So
fantastic, Bryony. Thanks a million for coming on the show.